At the renowned Sandbridge Zoo, the excitement was palpable as Daisy, a beloved orangutan, went into labor for the first time. The zookeepers and veterinarians had prepared meticulously, expecting a typical birth. However, as the tiny infant emerged, the room fell into an astonished silence. "Welcome to Wanderbot Animals." Dr. Kell, the lead veterinarian, leaned in closer, his eyes widening in disbelief as he muttered, "This can't be true." Dr. Kell and his team had planned for the arrival of the new orangutan for months, taking into account every possible scenario that could occur during the birth. This was Daisy's first pregnancy and her first time giving birth. Dr. Kell felt as prepared as ever, but little did he know he had forgotten one crucial aspect. When they arrived at the zoo, Daisy was already in active labor. Dr. Kell rushed to the observation room, ready to provide a helpful hand if needed. They wanted Daisy to be in control of the birth for as long as possible, replicating the privacy she would seek in the wild. Daisy seemed to know exactly what she was doing, even if it was her first time. She was alone in a quiet, secluded space to give birth, mimicking the natural conditions of the wild. Dr. Kell, his team, and the other zookeepers watched Daisy from a distance, monitoring everything that happened. Everything seemed to be going well, at least for now. Daisy was in active labor, so Dr. Kell expected the baby to be born any minute. She hung on a rope, using gravity to help with the delivery, but as the minutes ticked by, there was still no baby to be seen. Dr. Kell began to grow worried, and he could see some of the zoo workers sharing the same concern. Worry and fear were etched on their faces. Suddenly, Dr. Kell felt a light tap on his shoulder. It was Gina, one of the newer zoo workers. Her eyes were a little watery, and there was a slight tremor in her voice. "Dr. Kell, at what point would you and your team intervene?" she asked, clearly worried about Daisy and the baby and feeling helpless, as the only thing she could do was watch. Dr. Kell calmed her down, telling her everything would be fine, though he wasn't very sure of his own words. He shot a glance at one of his team members, who looked back at him worriedly. Dr. Kell gestured for them to go to a private room, and she followed. "Dr. Miller, tell me what's going on inside your head right now," Dr. Kell asked. Dr. Miller outlined their next steps if Daisy failed to give birth within 10 minutes, detailing what Dr. Kell had taught her and assuring him that she knew exactly what to do. Dr. Kell listened intently, nodding reassuringly. Suddenly, there was a frantic knock on the door. "Dr. Kell, you need to see this." Dr. Kell and Dr. Miller looked at each other in confusion and quickly rushed out of the room. When they arrived back in the observation room, they saw nothing but wide eyes and shocked faces. One or two people in the room were even drained of all color in their faces. Dr. Kell's heart raced as he looked at Daisy. He gasped upon seeing her sitting on the ground with the baby orangutan in her hands. Dr. Kell couldn't believe his eyes. He stepped closer to the glass surrounding Daisy's enclosure, almost pressing his face against it, while the zookeepers had to pull him back so he wouldn't disturb Daisy. "This can't be true," Dr. Kell stammered as he looked at Dr. Miller, all color drained from his face. "We didn't prepare for this," he said, looking at his colleague. Dr. Miller shook her head, unsure of what to do next. "What do we do now?" she asked. Just then, the zoo manager walked through the door. "Thank you, Dr. Kell, but we don't need your assistance anymore. The baby looks uninjured, so we can take it from here." Dr. Kell frowned, not knowing what to say. Was he really being sent away after such a birth? This was outrageous. Dr. Kell wanted to resist, but Dr. Miller had already told the manager they would be leaving very soon, just needing to complete some last-minute paperwork. As she said this, she looked at Dr. Kell, signaling him to go along with her story. "Oh yes, the paperwork. We'll leave right after," Dr. Kell lied. All the zoo workers left the room, leaving Dr. Kell and Dr. Miller behind. They quickly sat down at a table as far away from the door as possible so no one would overhear them. "This is a once-in-a-lifetime birth," How can they send us away? We need to stay and observe, maybe even run some tests, Dr. Kell said angrily. Dr. Miller, however, already had a plan. She leaned in closely and whispered something in Dr. Kell's ear. Dr. Kell leaned back with a surprised look on his face. Could we do that? He asked his colleague. Dr. Miller shrugged her shoulders. It wouldn't hurt if no one found out about it, she said with a devious smile. The veterinarians left the zoo soon after, but not before taking one final look at the baby orangutan. I'll see you tomorrow, Dr. Miller said to Dr. Kell as they were about to part ways. Then we'll get to see the orangutan again, I promise you. She winked at her colleague before disappearing into the distance. Its interactions with Daisy, subtle yet distinct. They scribbled notes, their expressions growing more intrigued and puzzled by the minute. In hushed tones, hidden by the rustling leaves, they conferred. Did you see its eyes? Dr. Miller whispered. There's something different. Dr. Kell nodded. And its movements. They're not typical. Their professional curiosity was piqued. What they were observing wasn't just a new life, it was a mystery unfolding. They debated theories, their whispers blending with the surrounding nature as the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the enclosure. A realization dawned on them. There's more to this than we thought, Dr. Kell said, his eyes never leaving the baby. Dr. Miller, equally captivated, agreed. We need to find out what's going on. Their determination solidified. They were on the cusp of discovering something extraordinary. Timing was everything. As the afternoon crowd thinned, Dr. Kell and Dr. Miller seized their chance. With practiced nonchalance, they slipped past the staff-only sign and into the lush greenery of the orangutan enclosure. Their hearts raced, not just from the thrill of forbidden entry, but from the anticipation of what they might discover up close. With the baby orangutan now mere feet away from Daisy and her baby, they observed intently. Dr. Kell noted the baby's delicate features, its tiny hands, the way its hair fell. Dr. Miller, meanwhile, was absorbed in its facial expressions and the soft sounds it made. Each observation was meticulously recorded, their professional acumen picking out details that were easy to miss from a distance. Hidden by the foliage, they watched the world of mother and child unfold. The baby's interactions with Daisy were fascinating, how it clung to her, the way she tended to it with gentle strokes. They noted the baby's responses to sounds and movements around it, compiling mental notes of every action and reaction that made this baby stand out. The more they watched, the deeper their intrigue grew. This wasn't just an ordinary newborn. Its behavior and certain physical traits were unlike anything they had seen in their years of experience. Dr. Kell and Dr. Miller exchanged looks of excitement and bewilderment. This little creature was defying their expectations, hinting at secrets waiting to be uncovered. As the sky darkened, they reluctantly left the enclosure, their minds abuzz with theories. We need to keep this between us, Dr. Kell said firmly as they exited. Dr. Miller nodded in agreement, the weight of their discovery heavy on her mind. They had stumbled upon something potentially groundbreaking, but for now, it remained their secret, hidden within the walls of the zoo. Early the next morning, Dr. Kell returned to the enclosure with a small, concealed kit. As he engaged in casual conversation with the zookeeper, his hands skillfully obtained a few hair samples from the baby orangutan. It was a swift, subtle act, unnoticed by the onlookers. The samples, safely tucked away, were the first tangible step towards unraveling the mystery they had uncovered. As the days went by, Dr. Kell and Dr. Miller continued their covert observations and analyses. Their findings pointed towards something extraordinary. They decided to involve a trusted colleague, Dr. Emily Hartman, a renowned geneticist known for her expertise in primate genetics. Their meeting was arranged under the guise of a research collaboration, but their true aim was to have Dr. Hartman analyze the hair samples. In a secure lab, Dr. Hartman scrutinized the samples with an intensity that matched the veterinarian's curiosity. "These are remarkable," she said, examining the genetic markers. There are anomalies here that suggest something unusual, something we've never encountered before. Her eyes met Dr. Kell's and Dr. Miller's. What exactly are you suggesting? Dr. Kell took a deep breath. We believe this baby orangutan may be different in ways we can't yet fully understand. We need your expertise to determine just how unique it is. Dr. Hartman nodded, her scientific curiosity ignited. I'll need more time to conduct thorough analyses, but I'll keep you informed of any developments. As the days turned into weeks, the team worked diligently to uncover the truth. Their investigation led them to startling revelations, casting a new light on the baby orangutan and its genetic makeup. It became clear that this was not just a case of a rare mutation, but potentially a significant breakthrough in primate genetics. With each discovery, Dr. Kell, Dr. Miller, and Dr. Hartman grew more excited. They knew they were on the brink of something groundbreaking, a discovery that could redefine their understanding of primate biology. The mystery of the baby orangutan was unraveling, piece by piece, and with each revelation, they moved closer to understanding the extraordinary nature of this remarkable new life. And the reaction of the zoo's visitors, would the orangutan become a spectacle, a curiosity to be gawked at, or could they use this revelation to educate and raise awareness? The team grappled with these questions, acutely aware of the responsibility they now bore. Their mission had evolved. Once more now their goal was to safeguard the baby from becoming an object of sensationalism. Dar Miller, and Liam began crafting a plan that would not only protect the orangutan, but also ensure that its uniqueness was celebrated for the right reasons. Their newfound knowledge carried a heavy burden. They were determined to bear with integrity and care. The team gathered for strategic discussions, contemplating how best to approach zoo management with their unprecedented findings. The stakes were high, and they knew they needed a well-thought-out plan to protect the baby orangutan while managing the inevitable public interest. Their collective wisdom was put to the test as they debated the path forward. Balancing the baby's well-being with the zoo's reputation was no easy task. The team found themselves in a delicate dance, trying to preserve the orangutan's dignity while addressing the curiosity it would undoubtedly spark among visitors. Their discussions revolved around finding that elusive equilibrium between protection and public awareness. Their preparations included crafting a presentation for the zoo management. It would serve as a compelling case for their concerns, highlighting the unique situation they faced. Dar Miller, and Liam pored over every detail, ensuring their arguments were airtight, knowing that their case had to be compelling to sway the decision-makers in front of the zoo management. They presented their findings with a mix of trepidation and conviction. They outlined their observations, the test results, and the potential impact on the baby orangutan's life. They suggested a managed public announcement, a careful unveiling of the baby's condition, guided by narratives that prioritized education over spectacle. Their proposal extended to planning an educational campaign that would responsibly introduce the baby orangutan to the public. Dar Miller, and Liam envisioned a narrative that would shift the focus from the orangutan's uniqueness to the importance of conservation and understanding dwarfism in animals. Their hope was to guide the public's perception, ensuring that the baby's life would be defined by care and compassion, not curiosity. Zoo management greeted the team's proposal with initial resistance, fearing potential negative public reactions and sensationalism. They hesitated to proceed. Dar and Dar Miller faced an uphill battle as they attempted to convince the decision-makers of the orangutan's welfare and the importance of a controlled announcement. With unwavering determination, Dar and Dar Miller presented persuasive arguments. They passionately advocated for the baby orangutan's well-being, stressing the need for transparency and education. Their compelling case began to sway the hearts and minds of the zoo management, inching closer to a breakthrough. After intense deliberation and the persistence of the team, zoo management reluctantly agreed to a controlled announcement While their concerns still lingered, they recognized the import of prioritizing the orangutan's welfare. The team's unwavering dedication to the cause had triumphed, paving the way for a carefully managed revelation. With agreement secured, the zoo embarked on planning an educational campaign. Miller, and Liam worked closely with zoo staff to develop an informative approach centered on dwarfism in animals. Their mission was to enlighten the public about this condition while fostering an atmosphere of compassion and conservation. The team meticulously crafted the campaign, ensuring that its emphasis remained on conservation and education. They aimed to shift the public's focus away from the orangutan's uniqueness as an anomaly and towards a broader understanding of dwarfism in the animal kingdom. Their hope was that this approach would pave the way for a future where the baby orangutan could thrive without being defined solely by its condition. Enhancements were swiftly made to the baby orangutan's living space to aid it to its unique needs. The enclosure underwent a transformation with adjustments to lighting, temperature, and enrichment activities. The team worked tirelessly to create a safe and comfortable environment where the baby could flourish. Darkeller's team assumed an integral role in the baby orangutan's long-term welfare plan. Their dedication went beyond the initial discovery. As they continued to provide care and support for the growing orangutan, it was a commitment born out of both responsibility and affection, and they embraced their role wholeheartedly, anticipating potential challenges the orangutan might encounter due to its condition. The team prepared diligently. They researched and implemented strategies to address sun sensitivity, vision issues, and potential social interactions. It was a proactive approach to ensure the orangutan's life would be as fulfilling and joyful as possible. Darkeller and Miller found themselves in quiet, reflective moments. They pondered the ethical implications of their journey, the balance between scientific discovery and animal welfare, and the significance of their integrity in their profession. It was a time of contemplation, acknowledging the profound impact of their actions. The story reached its conclusion with the baby orangutan thriving under their care. The zoo had entered a new era of responsibility towards its animals, marked by compassion, education, and conservation. Darkeller and Miller looked to the future with hope, knowing that their clandestine mission had ultimately led to a brighter horizon for the orangutan and the zoo's commitment to its inhabitants.